Welcome back. Episode 3. I'm counting y'all because what it's doing in my mental is building consistency and dedication. Thank you for joining us again. My name is Edward Roberts, my co-host, Mr. Dennis Porter. We're here. We're going to be covering the BU success. And before Mr. Porter gives give us some wisdom about the book, we just want to recap. We first talked about identity, then success, and now we're going to cover direction. And, I'll just start off, having the lack of direction can sometimes make the learning curve a lot longer than it should be. And it's not that our experiences don't teach us, but sometimes not having someone to guide you. And we talked about the other day, like even in movies, right? You have a guide, right? The guide isn't the main actor, but he's the guide to help the main person get to his destination. When we talk about Karate Kid, right? Daniel-san, he had Mr. Miyagi, right? He didn't fight, but he taught him how to fight. And with direction, this is why it's so important to have a mentor, have a support system. So today we just want to talk about a little bit of direction, how important it is for a person to get to their destination.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you again for featuring BU. I gotta say for the record, this is probably the first time that this book has gotten the attention more so from Regeneration One from anyone else. And this book has been out now for 14 years. Wow. So, and Regeneration has caused a lot of attention to come to the book. So we definitely want to mention that. Speaking of direction, when I first wrote this book, there wasn't as many avenues of direction that there is now.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, social media in 14 years has really exploded. That can also lead to misdirection. There's a whole lot of stuff on social media that's intended to misdirect, right? But according to the book, why was direction third? First of all, just to recap real quick, we dealt with identity first and the understanding of how important that was and how vital that is to you going any further in life or being able to accomplish the things you have. It doesn't matter how much you have accomplished. You might have sacrificed who you are and taken on an identity that will make you acceptable or successful in this world, even though by nature it might not be the actual best representation of your identification there is. So just to clarify that, that's the case. And the majority of the world's people have taken into the few avenues of those who are considered the rulers of society or the conquerors, the decision makers. They create the limited avenues by which they determine what we are able to do. And it's important for us to understand this when you start talking about identity and purpose and direction, is to know that nobody exists freely in the world now to do that which they want to do unless they understand what they're up against. If you're not around, if you don't know that, then you can't even seek the proper direction, because the direction you may get may come from the actual people who want to misdirect you. And it's important that we understand that. So purpose and coming in to after identity is for the purpose of us understanding at that point, once we know who we are, of course, what is it that I'm capable of, and what is it out of what I'm capable of do I love doing?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Okay, so now after you done figured that out, after you done finally concluded that, what I love doing? I love growing flowers. I say that because it's important that you will never be able to claim an identity Uncle Yahya points out there's 3 stages in life, and he points out there is the lion, the beast of burden, and the child. Now, this is what he's talking about. The lion is when a person gets knowledge of himself and they fight violently like a lion to be freed of all of society's dictates, its limitations, its pseudo or fake interpretations and beliefs about things. The second one is the beast of burden. After a person realizes that they were on the wrong track, now they become burdened by finding guidance.
Sure.
They got to find somebody that know, right? And then the last part is the child, because now once that person wakes up to who they are and they know they need that help, they become a student of the world, right? And this is what Jesus was talking about, as we mentioned last time in Matthew 18, when he says that unless ye become like little children, you can't enter, right? So what Yahya is pointing out is transformation has to become such that you are open to keep learning. And to keep learning, how can you do that without direction?
Absolutely.
How can you do it without that?
Yeah. You know, a lot of things going through my head. I mean, you know, as far as asking people for directions, even when we're driving, right? You know, the man does not want to ask the direction when the wife says, hey, we're lost, right? Right. You know, before the GPS, right? Right. Even direction when what we have that comes in a box, right? We want to go off the brain and says, let me figure this out instead of looking at the directions and go from step 1 to step 8. Right. Right. These steps are in order. And I found it beneficial to ask someone who has more knowledge in this field to ask them, because it saves me time. Yeah. Right? It saves me error. Yeah. And actually the beauty in learning in someone else's error, you don't have to make the same mistakes. Yep. So, you know, I found it at, you know, I would say really around 50, maybe about 50, 49, 50 is when I realized, like, man, I need guidance. I need direction. And I started to sort that out. And that came from coaches, mentors, books, podcasts. Something as simple as the first commandment, right? When God told Adam, says, do not eat from that fruit. Man does not like to follow direction. Yeah. And because we don't like to follow direction, we have consequences that are affected the human race. So let's just simplify that, right? Yeah. Let's look at that example and see what happens when we don't follow directions.
That's right. And that's absolutely right. And you made the point, and that is that you can't go into anything worthwhile and there is not some guidance or direction there. And it's like you were saying about when you come into a country or whatever, there's always tour guides. Yeah. There's always someone. I learned from different forms of GPS, you can't follow every GPS. Yeah, it's not a good guide. That's right. You know? Yeah. But now, what I would like to do is go a little further, ask a little deeper as to why direction is also chosen. And it's because as black people, we could never get out of asking ourselves the question is, how did so many black people in America become so misguided? And we know the answer to that because the deliberate purpose was to misguide. That's right. Right? So now, as much as society may want to move on and may want to dismiss all of this here, the fact of the matter is those of us who are conscious cannot dismiss it. It's impossible. It's like speaking of direction, all of the knowledge that we have of what happened to us as a people and what is still happening to us as a people. is the result of those who had the proper knowledge and training among our people and some who weren't our people to go and get that information. And they got that information. And if they hadn't so accurately gotten that information, we would still be believing that we were nothing before slavery.
Yes, sir.
And if it wasn't for our scholars going, uncovering that information and giving us direction, because that made all the difference in our identity. It made all the difference in our purpose. How can we have any of this until somebody comes and say, do you understand who you really are? And you're sitting there going, I know I am.
Yes, sir.
But you're a little deeper than Dennis Porter. So
that's right. And you know, I'm glad you went that way, because I've started to go in a different direction because of the direction that was given me to finding out who I am before roots, right? And, you know, understanding my true identity, and that is helping me with the direction, you know. And I'm seeing now, and I want to get into the book in just 1 second, but I'm seeing, as I reflect, that I had many people who have told me, whether it's the Union County Economical Development Center, there was other SCORE, they was actually giving me the direction for a successful business. And I think a lot of us, you know, when we talk about entrepreneurship or being a business owner, we believe that we already have it because we transitioned from a world that we were self-employed, but we need the direction of how the world operates, right? We need, you know, to know what a P&L statement is, right? You need to know what checks and balances, profits and loss, and all the other financial statements. So I think, you know, this is where we, once again, we think we know it all. You know, and you know, so we it's important that we find someone to follow.
Now here's the interesting thing about what you just made me think about. Now we're in a time where per capita, blacks in America have more degrees than any other group of people in the world. Now think about that. It's more of us, blacks in America, walking around with a degree. So why is it that we're in the position we're in? We're in that position because we refuse to now understand that just having your stuff is not enough.
No, absolutely.
The direction now has to go beyond, for us particularly, has to go beyond just getting these degrees to what we heard today in the meeting about pooling the resources until we reach that pinnacle, which everybody else reached unhindered some time ago. But because we were hindered, we have to remember that. And we have to really get this point across, because until we get that, this is why we don't understand giving direction to our babies when we have the opportunity before anybody else get their hands on them. For the TV get to them, the cell phone get to them. We have the opportunity to give direction. Now, why don't we do it? Because we don't know who we are either. The parent don't know.
And you know what? If we could just admit that and ask for direction from someone that can help us, like that's, I mean, that we've already surrendered. And getting back to the business part, there was a point where I needed to surrender and stop acting. And I needed the direction of those who knew business, right? Who was successful at business. And all they did was pour into me. And this is what we're doing now. We're just pouring into others who's seeking direction. All right, so bro, let
me just add one thing. Not taking directions is not doing business.
Hold on.
That's not business.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You ain't doing business. You may call it that.
Yeah.
But without direction, you are not doing business.
That's right.
I received
that. I received that. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. All right. So in the chapter, direction, you says the question: how much knowledge of what I'm seeking to accomplish, personally, socially, and professionally, do I possess?
This is a good question that we want the people to ask themselves.
Yeah.
Out of what you're trying to do personally, in terms of and this is also to get people to think about, see, most defeated people, right, who have not had direction up to this point, most of the defeated people, they don't think this far out.
Yeah.
They have just resolved to their little comfort zone in their space, and they're afraid to think that big. So that question and asking that, is really drawing attention to that, and how we have to learn that when we don't know something, as you said earlier, when we don't know something, we've been in that state so long that we literally, most of us, don't have that support system, so we don't seek anybody around us. We don't have a central system or group of people.
Yeah.
For instance, maybe 50, 60 years ago, you had a family where you had grandma, you had grandpa, you had a bunch of people, uncles, and so you naturally probably could go to for certain things. It's, you know for yourself.
Yep.
Me and you are almost like we got to start it all over again.
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to mention that while you was talking about it.
Yeah, and if I could just mention, I shared in the devotion this week that I received that I passed a water WRT, which is water damage restoration class, and I failed 3 times prior. But each time I didn't look at the failure as it didn't weigh on my intelligence. What it did is show me what I didn't know. Right? And I reached out to the instructor and met with him every other week, right? And at the result of that is me passing the test, right? So instead of me acting as if I knew, right, when I didn't know,
right,
I said, you know what? He's the man with the knowledge, right? He is the facilitator. Let me ask him for help.
Yeah.
And that's where the direction came at.
Wow.
And he helped me, get to that point. So, second one, how much personal and social and professional assistance do I need?
And every one of these areas is basically kind of the same answer. It's conscious awareness, first of all. You're making a person think about the things that they normally wouldn't put these questions to themselves, or they're afraid to put them to themselves.
Yeah.
And we're addressing them because we want them to know we're going to help you
absolutely
deal with this, right? But in your personal or business or social life, in each one of these areas, we underestimate how any of those areas can stagnate the other areas.
Sure.
Just one of them will
stagnate
the rest of them. That's why the balance is so important of getting direction. I think a couple of weeks ago we were talking, and I was telling you one of the keys y'all gave me was you got to keep feeding information into yourself.
Yes.
Simply because every time you absorb some information now, once you digest it, the more you are a person who has been out of sync with solidifying faith and knowledge, faith and information, you have to keep regimenting yourself and pouring it in, because those neurological connections have all been made around the negative. Now you got to establish new connections.
Sure.
And these new connections are the positive stuff that you have to continuously feed yourself. So you can't do this all by yourself. It's very important. Just like we were listening to Dr. Joe, or we're reading one of the books, or we're doing something. Believe it or not, when you're in it and you're studying all this knowledge, you think you have a choice because you feel good and you take a little time off, but it don't take you long to stay away from knowledge that confusion begins to set in. And you gotta link in somewhere on one of those levels. You gotta link in either on the spiritual, mental, or physical. But in all those areas, the social, the business, the personal, all of those areas, the worst thing that we can do is underestimate the opportunity to learn in those areas.
Do you think, and this is a question for men, black men specifically, do you think the absence of a male presence, a dad, a father, is why we are reluctant to ask for direction?
Well, it's not having a model of how you do it.
Okay.
Like, for instance, if you came up around humble men who don't mind taking a lowly position and being open and asking questions and not being afraid to do that, then naturally that's normal to you because you came up around it. But just think about what you just said. That's absent.
Yeah.
So now if there's no direction, you see what I mean?
Wow.
Then now you're in the precarious position of watching your colleagues go through trial and error with you and learning from them. Now, ain't much knowledge there between what he went through and what you going through. So until somebody has a default or, something goes wrong, we didn't learn anything new. We just hang out all day and do nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's very true. I think there's no getting around it. I think everything in the nature world, you will, if you see that male figure or female figure, there's a male figure, there's a cub, male behind that male animal, or that female, there's a female, right?
Yep.
Okay, now nature is doing this all day long. All of nature, the first thing they show is, number one, them protecting their children. Number two, them nurturing their children. Number three, them teaching their children.
Yeah.
What's number four? Putting them out.
Yeah.
After they teach them.
That's right. Because you got to see, they have to see what they've learned.
If look, that's what they mean by survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
If you don't qualify, the species can't live if you're weak.
That's right.
So nature naturally says the mother pushes you away. Hey man, if you can't make it after I just gave you everything I got, you too weak.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, for what we're doing with regeneration is trying to reestablish, right, regenerate, and reform what society has put on us,
right,
and what they haven't given us, and not putting the blame on them, because now that we're an adult, right, we're adults, we're men now, we have to take charge of our lives. And one of the most freeing, it was freeing, but it was also empowering, was saying, I don't know.
That's right.
Man, as a man, you don't like to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
We will conjure up something just to have an answer.
Yeah.
Right? Opposed to saying, man, I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but let me tell you who that man is, and I know we're getting really close here. But let me tell you who that man is. Once again, in our case, more than likely, it is the fact of what you just said. Once the infrastructure of a family has broken down, that's evidence that first the man has broke down.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, if the infrastructure is not there, it's shame to not knowing.
Wow.
It's in a world that does not explain a lot to you, but expects a lot from you. You're expected to cease on complaining as a man about anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. That has nothing to do with the fact that being human, it is affecting you.
Yes, sir.
And we all
Yes,
know
sir.
that. As men, we know that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But at the same time, this young man coming up behind us, all he has left is his ego. He ain't got nothing else.
That's right.
I ain't
That's
got
right.
no power.
Yeah.
I ain't got no respect. I ain't got no money.
You got your ego.
All I got is my ego.
That's right.
So now I ain't letting nobody take that from me.
Yes, sir.
You see?
Yeah. Edging God out. Ego. All right. So look. I just we're gonna wrap up, but I do have just to say this to the people, the men especially. Bro, I learned how to be a better husband because someone else showed me. I learned to be a better father because someone else showed me. I learned to be a better business person because somebody showed me. All of these things I needed to be taught because it wasn't metamorphosis. I just wasn't born with all these gifts, but it worked in my favor when I asked for direction. Nothing wrong for asking for direction and help. We need to knock off this toxic masculinity. I got it when we don't have it, when we really failing at life. So I just want to you just leave that with you guys.
I just want to read. I'm gonna close out with just reading this on the back.
Yes, sir.
Because I think this back page is really important.
You want me to read it? You good?
I can't. Yeah, you read it.
Okay. This is a quote from Dennis Porter. Be you. Everything you need to succeed in you. The great mystery.
Everything you need to succeed
is in you.
Right.
The great mystery about success is that you are born with it. Not long after birth, we give it up for the misconception of success in pursuing the ideas of others. We end up stuck in bad careers, relationships, and habits as though we can't live without them. Our inherent rights and power to succeed are abandoned. However, the mechanisms to regenerate your success or prosperity in the form of wealth, health, and wisdom never die. You have the power right this moment to be free, happy, and content. You have in your hands the BU Success System, 6 steps to creating your personal success formula. To reclaim what is yours, you must question everything you believed in order to receive the keys. The first great secret to being a success, is that you must be free to be you. That word free. Free indeed. Yes, sir. All right, listen, y'all. We appreciate you tuning in with us again. Man, it's just been a pleasurable journey just discussing this book. I suggest, man, mothers, get this for your sons. Wives, get this for your husbands. Daughters, get this for your brothers. This book did great, and this isn't full transformation yet, but I'm on my way. And once again, it's on Amazon. You can check us out, www.regeneration-1.org. You can check us out there. And Mr. Porter?
There's a book signing at the Newark Public Library for BU on June 30th from 4 to 7 p.m. Newark, New Jersey Public Library.
All right, sir. All right, y'all. Peace.